guiding principle. Now, with an average of 10 hours of sunshine per day, Namibia is one of the world's sunniest countries. It has enormous potential for solar energy, yet 60% of the country's energy is imported from neighboring countries and 40% of its population is disconnected from the grid. It is against this background that Enfin Energy has embarked on its Namibian tour with various stakeholders to discuss possible collaborations with Namibian players to further explore opportunities in this sector. We're now joined by Marcus de Prier, who is the Chief Investment Officer at Enfin, as well as Dr. Gary Paul, who is the Chief Environmental, Social and Governance Officer also at Enfin. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Just to start with, we know that Namibia is, of course, known for its abundant, sunshine. But could you share some light on the possibilities that, holds potential for the solar energy sector in Namibia, Doctor?
Good evening to your viewers and listeners, Nina. Yeah, I think Namibia is at a very exciting juncture with government having committed $485,000 to embark upon an energy transition strategy, which I think initially will service about 50,000 households. It equates roughly to about 200,000 families for an user multiplier of 4. So I think at the cusp of such an endeavor, it's a good time for partners on the continent to come together in the spirit of communitarianism to solve this ever deepening crisis that we're seeing in South Africa. So instead of waiting for the crisis to hit, I think Namibia is taking a proactive approach and opening itself to partnerships such as the one which Enfin envisages with the power providers in Namibia. And so to that effect, we've had some interesting conversations today. And tomorrow we'll be having an open day at the Hilton Hotel. And details of that event can be found on the Poya Media website and their social media platforms.
We'll get into those details in a bit. But Marcus, perhaps talk to us about, where in the world, and more specifically in Africa, is the utilization of solar energy been a success?
So I think what we're seeing in South Africa is a rapid transition into renewable energy, and which was forced by a crisis that was created because it was left too long, as Gary said. So I think the success story is there to see. We see with a lot of our neighboring countries that they don't have the same crisis in terms of interruption of energy, but we do find that the cost of the electricity structure now does provide an opportunity to start looking at renewable energy and solar specifically. Again, as you mentioned, Namibia's natural endowment with sunlight and the lack of clouds and its geographic location for us is a perfect opportunity to partner with the commercial sector in the country to start moving into the green transition in the country.
Talk to us about, your role as catalyst towards this transition of solar energy.
So your question is very pertinent about the success of solar power in the rest of the world and Infan's role in making that transition become a reality.
Right.
So as a guiding philosophy, Enfin subscribes to the triple bottom line approach, which is people, planet, and profits. So if one overlays the notion of a viable and a feasible business, coupled to the traditional understanding of sustainability, which is financial sustainability, and our thinking about sustainability from an environmental perspective, we have to start embarking upon strategies that will, first of all, stop or retard the degeneration of the environmental impacts and ultimately replace it. But I suspect there's going to have to be an energy mix. So, the use of diesel powered generators, the emissions that go into the environment, if you can just quantify that, it's quite astronomical, plus the cost of course, of the diesel. So that's where energy, Enfin comes in with its tailor-made power solutions.
Yeah. Are there any Namibian companies that you know of that have embraced, the solar energy transition, and how successful are they in doing that?
Yeah, we had, I'm not at liberty to disclose names. We had discussions today with a preeminent company in Namibia, and the experience has been one of mixed emotions, because it is a bandwagon that everybody believes they can jump onto, but it's a highly specialized environment, and certainly highly regulated. So back to the infant guiding principles, which is integrity and honesty. So we manage our supply chains very closely. And I think I'm giving you a good indication as to what some of the difficulties might be in a market which can be disrupted by the lack of barriers to entry.
I do understand, of course, that solar energy is the way to go. Everybody's talking about this clean energy, new energy transition, and so on. But Namibia, really, as it stands, our contribution to pollution stands at something like 0.03%. It's minuscule. Why would we need something like this, Marcus?
So I think, again, fundamentals, economics will certainly play a role, so that your cost of energy is going to creep up, and just because your suppliers are forced to procure from carbon-based sources, so that obviously has a cost to it, a cost to the planet, as we've mentioned, and a cost to the bottom line. So certainly, even though there is enough energy at the moment in Namibia, I think that just basic fundamentals will also endorse that transition. And then you look at certain supply or certain demand forces. So, for example, in agriculture, you see your retailers and your off-takers of agricultural products constantly looking at their suppliers to see what they are doing. And one of the quickest fixes is to look at your energy. It's a win on the pricing side or on the cost side, as well. It gives you the ESG contribution to your triple bottom line.
Your success, or infant success in South Africa, has been quite impressive. Talk to us about the strategies that you've implemented, to make use of the natural sunlight, and of course how you plan to replicate that success within our country.
Yeah. So I think we've now got a proven model. We've got a track record of success. We've got references. We know that our strategies and our products work, and we're looking forward to replicate that here. So firstly, we're looking for partners. We invest in businesses in terms of our model. So we don't necessarily look at loan funding or things like that. We invest in companies' solar energy needs. So we're looking for trusted partners, and we bring a fully funded model that's essentially self-funded, because most companies are already paying for electricity. And that's really, from that basis, it really is a win-win situation if we find the right partners who are looking for people to take the technological risks and the operational and management side of these things, so that they can concentrate on their businesses.
Dr. Paul, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, well, perhaps a different dynamic. So one which operates below the radar, if I can put it that way. So right now in organizations, and I'm talking from an organizational behavior perspective, you have your generation Y and Z, and they are characterized as or described as people who want to pursue real causes in life. So sustainability, cleaner energy, those are typical causes that generation Y and Z would want to align themselves with, and if their companies that they work for demonstrably embrace those causes, the chances of those companies getting those bright and influential generational mixes into their structures are much greater, and then to retain them as well is the other factor. So this is multifactorial. It's not just about solving the energy problem, as you can hear from the different dynamics that are at play. So it requires careful consideration of all these intersectoral and intersectional kind of forces.
Yeah. You're going to have a free information session taking place tomorrow. Tell us a bit about that, Marcus.
Yeah, so we'll be engaging with various stakeholders tomorrow in Windhoek. It's an open day, it's free to attend. I think if you look at or search for the hashtags or for Enfin Energy, you should be finding that, or follow Poyo Media, and you should be getting the links there. And yeah, we look forward to speaking with having further engagement to people that we've already spoke to as well, and having an exciting day and a clear way forward when we leave Windhoek.
Yeah. How much more solar energy does South Africa need to embrace to get rid of load shedding?
Yeah, it's not about eradicating load shedding per se, because I mentioned, it's about an energy mix.
Yeah.
But it's to relieve the pressure on the grid.
That would be ideal if it's eradicated completely, obviously.
Of course, but one has got to have regard for the various revenue generation channels of government as well, and respect that. But I think it's about giving people the choice to exercise, what causes they want to embrace.
Yeah.
And it's going to become more of an imposition rather than a choice. So companies are going to be very selective about who they do business with. If you don't have solar power and your carbon footprint is above a certain threshold, they simply won't do business with you.
Yeah. We will get to that point. That's so true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here, and all the best with your information session. And
thank you so much.
Thank you for the great work you're doing, not only for the planet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that was Dr. Gary Paul and Marcus speaking to us, Marcus du Preez speaking to us there concerning Enfin and their endeavors around solar energy. We'll be right back after this. We have some more conversations lined up for you. Stay with us.